HOA tried to fine me for renting my cabin. State law overruled their rules and fined them instead. Have you ever been slapped with a fine so outrageous it felt like a personal attack? That's exactly how Sarah felt when her HOA sent her a $2,400 bill for renting out her cozy mountain cabin on Airbnb. Sarah, a single mom and small business owner, had been using the rental income to keep her finances afloat. But her HOA, led by the iron-fisted Karen, decided her short-term rentals were destroying the community's charm. What they didn't expect was Sarah's fight back, a battle that exposed their overreach and turned their own rules against them, leaving Karen and the HOA board scrambling to save face. Sarah's cabin, nestled in the pine-covered hills of Colorado, was her pride and joy. She'd bought it 3 years ago. A fixer-upper she transformed into a charming retreat for hikers and city escapees. To cover the mortgage and her daughter's college fund, she listed it on Airbnb, carefully registering each guest with the HOA as required by their covenants, conditions, and restrictions, CC and RS. For 2 years, everything ran smoothly. Guests left glowing reviews, and the HOA cashed her dues without a peep. But trouble brewed when Karen, the HOA president with a penchant for control, moved into the community. Karen, with her perfectly manicured lawn and an obsession with maintaining property values, had a vision for the neighborhood. No renters, no outsiders, just her idea of pristine uniformity. The first sign of trouble came with a curt email from Karen. "Your short-term rentals violate our community standards," it read, citing a vague clause in the CC and RS about residential use. Sarah was baffled. She'd followed every rule, registered every guest, and even paid extra fees for community upkeep. When she replied, asking for clarification, Karen doubled down, claiming the rentals were driving down property values and attracting unsavory types. Sarah's polite request for evidence was met with silence until a certified letter arrived, demanding $2,400 for 12 unauthorized guests over 2 months, at $200 per guest. The kicker? The HOA claimed she wasn't in good standing because their payment system was down, and she hadn't paid $1,000 in dues. Sarah had waited for the system to come back online, unaware that Karen's board had retroactively stacked fines without warning. Furious but determined, Sarah dug into the HOA's CC and RS and Colorado state law. She discovered that the HOA's fine structure was questionable. Colorado's Common Interest Ownership Act, CCIOA, required written notice and a hearing before fines could be imposed, neither of which she'd received. More importantly, she stumbled across a recent state law, passed to address Colorado's housing crisis, that limited HOA rental restrictions. Effective January 1, 2021, Assembly Bill 3182 made it illegal for HOAs to unreasonably restrict short-term rentals, especially if they were registered and compliant with local ordinances. Sarah's rentals met every requirement, and the HOA's blanket ban seemed to overstep the law. Enter Mike, a retired attorney who lived 2 cabins down and had his own run-ins with Karen's micromanaging. Mike, a wiry man with a sharp wit and a disdain for petty bureaucracy, offered to help Sarah. "Karen's been itching to flex her power," he said, sipping coffee in Sarah's kitchen. "But she's sloppy. Let's take this to the board." Mike's unexpected alliance gave Sarah a boost. She wasn't just fighting for herself, but for every homeowner tired of Karen's overreach. Together, they crafted a formal appeal, citing the CCIOA and AB 3182, and demanded a hearing. They also found a Facebook group where other neighbors vented about Karen's heavy-handed tactics, from fining a family for a basketball hoop to threatening a couple over their vegetable garden. The community was restless, and Sarah's case was about to light a fuse. The hearing was a spectacle. Held in the community clubhouse, it drew a crowd of neighbors curious about the showdown. Karen, perched at the head of the table, wielded her gavel like a scepter, her smile tight as she read the charges against Sarah. "Your rentals disrupt our community's integrity," she declared, ignoring the lack of evidence. Sarah, armed with Mike's coaching, presented her case calmly. She showed proof of guest registrations, compliance with local zoning laws, and the HOA's failure to provide notice or a hearing before fining her. She quoted AB 3182, explaining that the HOA's restrictions were unenforceable unless they were explicitly in the CC and RS and deemed reasonable by state standards. Karen's face reddened as Sarah pointed out that the HOA's payment system failure wasn't her fault, and stacking fines without notice violated CCIOA's due process requirements. The twist came when Mike took the floor. He revealed that he'd contacted the Colorado Division of Real Estate, which confirmed that HOAs imposing fines without proper procedure could face penalties up to $1,000 per violation. He also dropped a bombshell. Karen had been selectively enforcing rules, letting her friends' unapproved decks slide while hammering Sarah. This accusation, backed by photos from a neighbor's phone, sent murmurs through the room. The crowd's mood shifted. Karen's credibility was cracking. Sarah seized the moment, asking, "If the HOA can fine me without notice, what's stopping them from targeting anyone else?" The question hung in the air, and neighbors exchanged uneasy glances. Karen's defense unraveled. She stammered about community standards, but couldn't produce evidence that Sarah's rentals caused harm. The board, sensing the tide turning, voted to rescind Sarah's fines, but the damage was done. Mike, relentless, pushed further. He filed a formal complaint with the state, alleging that the HOA's actions violated AB 3182 and CCIOA. The Division of Real Estate investigated and found the HOA's rental restrictions and fining practices non-compliant. The HOA was hit with a $1,000 fine for failing to amend their CC and RS to align with state law and another $500 for improper fining procedures. Karen, humiliated, stepped down as president after neighbors demanded new leadership in a heated follow-up meeting. The new board, led by a pragmatic couple, revised the CC and RS to allow short-term rentals with clear guidelines, restoring peace to the community. Sarah's victory wasn't just about the money, it was about reclaiming her rights and exposing the HOA's overreach. She kept renting her cabin, her guests blissfully unaware of the battle she'd fought. The community felt lighter, with neighbors openly discussing how to keep the HOA accountable. Sarah and Mike became local heroes, their story a reminder that even the smallest voice, armed with knowledge and allies, can topple a tyrant. For Sarah, the win meant more than saving $2. For $100, it meant her daughter's college fund was secure, and she could breathe easier knowing her home was truly hers. What do you think? Did Sarah and Mike do the right thing by taking on the HOA, or should they have tried to negotiate with Karen first? Share your thoughts on where the line should be drawn between community rules and personal freedom.